All right, guys, welcome back to Church Debater and Preacher Mike. Mike, what's going on this beautiful Monday? It actually is February 19th, 2024.
Hey, I'm doing well. I'm doing very well. Just busy, we're at a point in life where we're doing a lot with taking care of the old folks. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but
Uh,
it's all
I
right.
understand. Yeah, yeah. We've all gone through that
Yep.
recently and not so
Mhm.
recently. And in fact, I'll kind of tease a little bit about what I was going to do the next show, but it's based on a book I just bought,
Oh,
and it's like a follow-up book from an author that I bought a book from in 1975.
oh my
And
goodness.
we talked a little bit about it in
Okay.
2021 when my mother passed away. We talked
Hmm.
a lot about it, and I was going to follow up some on that. So we'll save that to next week.
Oh,
I
okay.
thought this week I was going to call it, I'm going to give you a little bit of the theme before we get started. I was going to call it something to the effect of are Christians ever accidentally judgmental?
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Then
All right.
after the lesson we had Sunday, I said, well,
Uh-huh.
why don't we just throw pride in there? Because most of the time when we're being judgmental, it's because we're trying to make ourselves either feel good or make ourselves look better than that other person. Okay. So
I
I've
think that's
actually got three or four instances, in January, Kim and I and our best friends from St. Louis, who you know as well, we all took a cruise to
right.
Aruba
Oh,
and Curacao, furthest I'd ever been south. I mean, that's 15 miles from the border of Venezuela. So you're
ah,
down at South America when you're takes
okay.
2 days for the ship just to get down there.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
it's a long trip. But I had some observations while I was gone, and you're going to think I'm an idiot, but you think that anyway. So
Hey, we expect it now. So
yeah,
bring it
that's
on.
right.
Bring it on.
It comes so naturally. So I'm going to tell you three things that happened,
Okay.
and it happened not to, well, I don't know if they were Christians. I shouldn't say not to Christian people. They could have been Christians, but it happened. All three were people talking to each other. And then, the way my mind works, I observed it and said, well, I wonder if we can learn something from that. Do we ever make ourselves feel better by doing the same thing? So the first one, before we had even left the airport to go, I was in the gift shop, probably getting a soda or something for the plane. And there's some lady that's walking up the hallway to the gift shop, runs in, looks at the lady behind the counter and says, y'all sell cigarettes here? And the lady looked back at her and said, oh God, no.
Oh,
and,
man.
then, and then the lady walked away and just said, she said something like, don't judge, and walked away. So I said, I couldn't help but pick up on the fact that she said, don't judge me. It was almost like, all right, maybe I shouldn't be partaking of that, but don't judge me. So
Don't judge me.
it made me think, what if we're not careful, what do Christians sometimes do, accidentally maybe,
Mhm.
to make us feel better, either with people we run into or maybe even the Christians in our own congregation that we run into? Can you think of an example that would kind of follow those same lines?
Yeah, I think that those kinds of things happen. I can give you some generic things. For instance,
Okay.
I think a lot of Christian people are very outspoken about a number of blatant sinful actions. And a lot of them, it seems to me, could be in the potential of not saying anything about less blatant things because they themselves are sort of involved in those. Instead of they're not in the big ones, if you will, how we rate sin. Of course, God doesn't, but
Yeah. Yeah.
and so I think that sometimes I see that. In fact, I wouldn't I wouldn't say that I have never done that myself
Right.
because
Me too. Me
that's
too.
just how it is.
Yeah.
And so I think that is one thing that Christians do. We get all fired up about the societal big sins, and we don't mind really going on campaigns. But what about my gossipy mentality, or those kinds of things? So I think I see that a lot, and I think
Okay.
a lot of that comes from your sin is worse than mine, and we talked about
Right.
the passage that said you can't get a splinter out of somebody's eye till you get the beam out of your own eye. And I think those kinds of things happen quite a bit.
Yeah. I even thought of even for maybe even within the church. Well, let me give you an example. This has been years ago, that back when Trivial Pursuit was popular,
Oh yeah.
we were playing Trivial Pursuit, and one of the guys who's very strong in Bible knowledge didn't really do very well in Trivial Pursuit.
Oh, okay.
And then after that game was over, we played a Bible trivia game, and he just burnt everybody up. He was so far ahead of it. But then he made a point of pointing out, I
Uh,
know what I'm supposed to know, and to make him look better. So is that what we're talking about? And
oh,
is that sinful?
I think it certainly can be a sinful situation. We were talking earlier about, and we talked about it yesterday, about pride going as a part of a judgmental attitude. And if a person does something along that line, I can't help, even though I try very hard not to judge people's motives or intentions. The fruit from that seems to me to say my pride is such that I got to make sure that I justify what happened just a minute ago. When I lost that game, who cares? Because I know the Bible stuff. And in so doing, he's actually saying, y'all don't know it. See, y'all
No
took your
doubt.
time to learn all that other trivia, and I took my time to learn the Bible. So who's better? I mean, that's what's
Yeah,
going, you
no
know.
doubt about it.
And of course, I think that's wrong. That's a wrong attitude.
Yeah. And even what you said before, sermons, classes, whatever, we tend to study over and over, if we're not careful,
Yep.
the things that we really don't have that much problem with,
There you
and
go.
don't study the other, like gossip that you mentioned. We don't study that often.
No.
We don't talk about what gossip is.
Nope.
And if there was ever a sin that a lot of Christians are, I'm judging already, a lot of Christians are guilty of, maybe even daily, it's talking about other people.
Well, how many times have you been in a conversation with somebody, either in a group or one on one, and the person says, somebody says, "Now, I probably shouldn't say this," but then they say it.
Yeah. Oh, well, if they make that statement, they're going to say it.
They're
That's
good.
where they're going.
They're justifying what I'm about to say.
All right.
So yeah, so I think that what you brought up is certainly an issue, and some of it even comes from the mentality of holier than thou. I
Right.
am holier than you, and I have made that decision, or somebody's made that decision about this group of people. We're holier than that group of people. And so I think that certainly is an issue that everybody has experienced in some way.
Okay. What if I told you that it makes me uncomfortable sometimes when we insist on, I don't want to say having intense Old Testament Bible knowledge
Okay.
to the point of designing classes so that those of us, I'll put myself in that category, that is not as good with Old Testament as New Testament, putting classes together show that we know it all.
Uh,
It almost makes me feel like I have to be as strong on my Bible as this person, this elder, this whoever.
mhm.
You'll probably agree there's some people in the building that would rival your Bible knowledge. Would you not agree with that?
Absolutely, I would agree with
Yeah.
that.
So, do I have to feel bad that I don't have as much Bible knowledge and recall as you?
I think here is the problem, and the answer is no. But here is the problem. We are in a society, we are a group of people whose whole, our lives exist in so many things about being able to count and have a scorekeeping and rating and all of that. And so because
True.
of that, we have that mentality when it comes to spiritual things. Well, how do you
Right.
rate spirituality?
Right. Right.
You
Right.
count it. So so the question is not how many facts do I know about the Bible? The question is, am I a Bible student? Am I someone who enjoys the study, who participates learning from other people so that what I don't know, maybe I can come to know? Am I a person who is willing to say, well, I don't know about this, so I'm going to go study this? If I've never read the book of Zephaniah, for instance, and I might say, well, I think I need to read that book. And so I'm just going to go read it. The question is not, do you know even where Zephaniah is in the Bible? The question is, do you want to be a person who has the mentality that says, I ought to read it? And so that's the spirituality concept is not about counting numbers and keeping score. That's where I think we get into trouble.
Would you agree that there's going to be, I know you can't say this, but 100%, there's going to be people in heaven with all degree got there with all degrees of Bible knowledge?
Number one, that's easy to answer because I know some people who, for instance, children who almost know nothing have died.
No, 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 forget about
How
that one. That's
about
too easy. That's a
how about
softball there.
adults that have only been Christians for 3 or 4 years versus
Okay.
30 years? Okay. By definition, the facts will be different for different people. So, yes, as
All
it
right.
comes to counting numbers, if we were doing that, I think in heaven there will be that. Yes.
Okay. All right.
The great thing is once we get there, God's going to fix all of that. We're going to,
Yeah, exactly. That's why I tried to reword
yeah,
what I was getting ready to
yeah,
say.
yeah, yeah.
All right. So Mike, let's talk pickleball. Okay.
Oh boy.
We told the couple that went with us before we left, hey, let's do a pickleball clinic. Let's go to a pickleball clinic when I know they're going to listen to this, so I'm going to kind of poke fun at them a little bit.
Oh,
Let's
okay.
go to a pickleball clinic, and they all agreed. And before we knew it, they showed up at the cruise having taken a pickleball class before they left and buying I mean, Kim and I had these little cheap paddles that we took with us. They were ready to go, which is pretty impressive actually. They were ready to go. We played pickleball, but let me tell you how I violated cruise ship pickleball etiquette.
Oh my.
Here's what you do. You're supposed to line your paddles up outside of the facility. There are 3 pickleball courts where you play.
Okay.
They're on the top level of the ship. And so that you hold your place and everybody knows who's next, you stack your pickleball rackets in groups of 4.
Okay.
And one thing that I didn't realize is that it had become acceptable to, if there's just 2 pickleball rackets in a stack, any other 2 could put theirs on top of ours, as for instance. So the first day, I put Kim and I's ours, Kim and mine. I don't know how to say that.
Kim's
Proper
in mind.
English. Kim's in mine. I put them in the stack, just 2 of us. Somebody else put theirs on top of us, and we were waiting for our friends, of course.
Right.
So I picked those front 2 up and moved them back because I was kind of holding a spot for them. So they finally showed up and we stacked it. And then somebody confronted me about it. So, do you think that's fair? And just kind of went off a little bit. I found out as the week progressed that they were so avid in pickleball
Ah,
that they didn't even get off the ship during the port days. They stayed on the ship so that they could get better access to the pickleball court. But finally, the guy that was with this other guy said, "Man, leave him alone. You're on vacation." It was like, I didn't know. I'll let you conjure in your mind what you think I said back to him.
oh boy.
because
Uh-huh.
it's not as bad as what you think.
Okay.
I just finally I smiled at him and said, "Listen, I can tell you take this a lot more seriously than I do. So move yours in front of us, and we'll be done." So, but it made me think like there's such a it's like there's a hierarchy of in that situation. And it's another instance. Do we ever get ourselves in a situation where if people don't make if people make a small mistake, we call them out on it? Can you think of any examples of that?
Oh, no doubt about that. I mean,
And what does that, especially if somebody's, you know, this story. We've had a couple before, a new family that was supposed to, was cleaning our building, was going to start coming to church. One of our Christians fussed at the way they cleaned the building and they never came back. That's similar to that.
and not only
So,
that, upset them so bad, the person called me because they were friends of mine.
oh, I didn't know that. And I know who they are.
Yeah.
So,
They
yeah.
called me crying.
Oh,
And
oh
and I
no.
was I was trying because I knew what had happened, and I was trying to say, listen, there are some people who just cannot seem to hold back. They have to criticize, they have to say, they have to do. And so I was trying to say, please don't judge the entire church
Right.
by that person. But those kinds of things happen all the time. I mean, it's not like we're trying to find a way to express this because we just turn around and find an example everywhere you look. Let me in a friendly and kind way. Let me
I hope
make
you're not going to ruin my third example. And I kind of think, go ahead, go
No, I
ahead.
don't think so
I'll
because
stop you. I'll stop you if I need to.
okay,
Okay. All right.
we have a lady here and it doesn't literally, it does not bother me at all. But every time I hand out a sermon outline, if there's a mistake on it, she marks it, comes up to me and shows me. Well, Sunday, after I put the outlines out, I was in here working and I noticed the mistake. I changed it myself. So everybody else had the mistakes, but I changed it on my that I keep. And I went to her afterwards before she came to me. So yes, now that in the same vein, how many people walk up and go, "You did everything exactly right"? Nope. And that's fine. I'm just saying
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
illustrates the point.
Yeah.
What are we wanting to do? Point out the errors.
We point out the bad stuff too
We
much,
always
not
do.
enough of the good stuff.
We
You know,
always do.
you gave that example. I catch myself doing that when I substitute teach.
Ah,
If
yes.
it, I, because I'm pretty good at spelling.
Yep.
And if a
Me
teacher
too.
has misspelled a word, it is so tough for me not to say, "All right, kids, find the misspelled word on the board." I got to thinking later that they're probably telling that teacher the next day what I did, and but that's all right. All right, last example from the
Okay.
cruise. Going to breakfast one morning in a dining room, and they often ask you if you want a mimosa
Okay.
for breakfast.
Gotcha.
Okay. Apparently, that's a breakfast. I know it's champagne and orange juice or some kind of juice.
I have no idea.
So, and of course, we just said no. There was another couple. They put strangers at your table with you sometimes. It's just the kind of the style of the cruise ship. And I noticed that when they asked this guy if he wanted a mimosa, he said, "No, I don't drink." Now, to me, I think that is close to, if not exactly, a sinful thing to say because there is no reason he said that other than to make himself look better than everybody else sitting at the table. Would you agree with that?
What I will
Oh, I mean, you're
what
not going
I
to
will
say yes
say,
or no.
it's tough to say because what
I
ends
know.
up happening is in some ways that's a judgment of his motive or his intention.
Sure,
Now,
it is. It's me judging as well. You're right.
So in that way, would it be the best thing to, especially with strangers? I wouldn't want to do it that way. Just saying no is fine.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I think
That's my
that's better.
point.
Yeah,
Yeah, me
but
too.
at the same time, what if I was sitting there with a whole bunch of preachers? You know, we're having lunch after our preachers meeting, and they want to know if we want drinks. Our point would be, no, we're a bunch of preachers. We're Bible study guys, and we're doing, and it's our way of saying, ah, how about we have a talk about that? Or would you like to, there's a way of doing it in a way that doesn't say, look how good I am. Because basically he was looking at the rest of you and saying, I don't drink. Now I don't know
Pretty
about
much.
them.
Pretty much. And who knows, he might have been lying, but by me saying that, that's me judging him. So I got to remember what I'm doing.
There we
But
go. Back for
that just struck me so funny of
I
him
understand.
going out of his way
I
to
understand.
say that he didn't drink. Okay, now let me mention one of the verses you talked about, John 13:12.
Yep.
In I can't remember if this is that the verse that
Yes. It was last
let
Wednesday
me
night
say it this way.
or
Let me
Sunday
say it
morning.
this way.
Yeah.
I have always heard that verse preached. Everything that you mentioned about pride, I
Uh-huh.
agreed with.
Right.
The only thing I'm not sure I agree with
Uh-huh.
is that was the intention behind the verse. I mean, all the years of my life,
Mm-hmm.
washing feet was more about the humility of Jesus than it was about trying to teach the apostles not to be proud of their situation.
Mm-hmm.
So that I'm not sure I go along with that. I go along with everything you said about pride, but I'm
Yep.
not sure I go along with the fact that that's what that verse is about.
Well, in John 13:12, for those who are listening, the text after Jesus finished washing the feet, he looked at the apostles and he said, "Do you know what I have done to you?"
Now, hang on, right? Stop right there a minute. When you read that, I looked up 8 different versions.
Mm-hmm.
New King James is the only one that uses the preposition to you.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the others use for you, which I think is a much stronger lesson for you than to you. Some of them actually mentioned, do you know what I've done? And didn't even use that. I was going to ask you what the original language indicated. And
Well,
if it is to you, then wonder why so many of the versions chose to say for you.
well, that's exactly what I was looking at, and the concept is that if I'm not mistaken, and I'm gonna verify it right fast here,
To
but
me, if
my
somebody does something to you, it's kind of, it almost sounds negative. If somebody did something for you, that sounds positive.
right, well, it does,
And I'll
it
keep
does,
talking
but
while we have
it
dead
also,
space.
well,
we
no,
we got a lot of
you're
dead air going on right here, so I'll keep talking.
well, there's a little bit of stat or something staccato going on in your audio, but anyway, here is what the original text says to you. That's what it says, and so the point
What's
that
the
I was
word?
making,
What's the Greek word?
humin, which
And that
means to you,
means
to
okay.
you. Mm-hmm. So the point is that there's more going on here than him washing feet.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
And what I said was, I don't know that the point is about pride. But the reason that I said that is even in that scenario, before he washed their feet, they were already having a discussion about who is greatest.
No, yep, yep, for
Luke
sure.
22, which one's
Yeah,
greater, me or you?
yeah.
And so in that scenario, it makes sense to me that it could be certainly about pride. And the point being that what have I done to you? I didn't just wash your feet. I pointed out to you what your problem is. And your problem as a group of people is you got a lot of pride you got to get rid of.
I would
That
almost say you're not humble enough.
I would say that too.
Okay.
I
Let
would
me
say
ask
that.
you this today, then. Back then, they washed feet because everybody wore sandals and it was desert and they got their feet dirty,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
All right. What would be similar? What could we do today for our fellow man, our fellow Christian, that would be similar to allowing ourselves to wash feet? What could we do for our Christian friends today that would be similar to washing feet? How would we show our humility?
I would probably say it would have something to do with someone is bedbound or at home or sick, and you show up to and you do something that they can't do for themselves.
Right.
And that would be a way, I think, in which I've heard of situations where someone's visiting, a Christian's visiting a brother or a sister, and they're having health issues and they can't really move and do much. And they visit for a while. And then the other person stands up and says, now, if you ever need anything, just give me a call.
Right.
Well,
yeah, that's right.
right around the corner, the dishes have not been washed because they can't get up, or the
right.
vacuum
Right.
hasn't
That's a
been
good
done.
example. That's a good
So,
example.
so I think that would be a good way of doing it. That kind of being careful about really paying attention to what people need and then doing it.
All right. So this next thing, people are going to have to watch the video to see this, because I did write down, I'm finished, but I did write down, there's some Christians that just, and maybe I'm one of them, that just have a judgmental expression. And I was going to see if I can do a judgmental
Oh,
expression.
okay.
How's that?
Pretty good.
You give me one.
You're like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, really, really. What did he just say? All right. So, Mike, we're out of time. You better give us the profound thought of the week.
Well, let's just stay in the ballpark of
All
where
right.
we've been.
I like that. I read the other day that this
Yeah.
past Saturday was the last Saturday
Uh-huh.
for their next 32 weeks that there
Okay.
wouldn't be a baseball game on TV. So
that's exciting to
baseball
you.
is back. It
That's
is exciting to you too. You like spring training.
Yeah, but it's one of those things that I can, unless it's my team, I'm not going to sit down and watch two teams I
Right.
know. So,
Oh, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that.
Well, here's my thing.
All
Just
right.
this. Didn't Jesus say, do not judge lest you be judged? Matthew 7:1. He didn't say don't judge. What he said was, when you judge, remember that God's going to use the same standard on you that you use on others. But if we always use God's standard on each other, which includes grace and mercy, then God will use that for us as well.
And I've always thought about too, I forget how it's worded now, but about forgiving others. Will God forgive us? Will he forgive us if we don't forgive others?
I do not think he will.
Okay, I agree with you. I think that's the way it's worded.
If you want if you want to be forgiven, you must forgive. That's what he says.
Right. All right. Good deal.
Right.
All right, guys, that's it for us this week on Church Debater. And Preacher Mike, you got something else to say?
No, man, I'm just good.
You popped up like you had something else to say.
No, I'm popping up for the close. I like to look like a good formal close. I'm ready now.
All right, that's it for us. Say goodbye, Mike.
Goodbye, Mike.